This week's episode is not suitable for children, okay? I'm just warning you up front. And it's most certainly not suitable for those with a narrow view of life, the world, or issues of sexuality. Hi, I'm Cash Peters. Welcome to another edition of the Life Quiz. My guest this time brings a refreshing array of skills and wisdom to the table. Her name's April Adams. She runs a sanctuary kind of healing space in Manchester, New Hampshire called the Retreat on Elm, where she operates as a counsellor, metaphysical teacher, and intuitive healer. You know, Reiki and all that body energy stuff? She does that. Oh, and she has a new book out called Essence, Ending Emptiness, Finding Fulfillment. That title alone is the key to her whole existence and to the conversation you're about to hear. April's the youngest guest in this series, and I confess I had a few reservations to begin with. I mean, surely, you've got to be older and have a few major adventures and traumas and whatever else under your belt before you become wise enough to go around dispensing life lessons to others, right? That was my logic. But I was wrong, as I so often am. This woman has wisdom aplenty. In the first half of the show, we discuss her personal take on suicide, simply because she almost killed herself years ago. Her bisexuality. Turns out she's married to a woman currently, and so we go into that and talk about things like how to tell if you're gay or straight. That's the part of the conversation where you don't want sensitive ears listening. It's plain speaking rather than graphic, but still, you know what I'm saying. She also has quite a radical view on the current state of the world, which seems to be crumbling around us right now. Then, in the second half, April tackles the life quiz itself. 3 rounds of questions about life, living, and lessons learned. All in all, it's an eye-opening episode. I thought so anyway. I find her answers as gripping now as when I first heard them, and I hope they do the same for you. Enjoy.
Why are we here?
What's it all about?
What's the point of being alive?
What will be my legacy?
Where do we go after we die?
The Life Quiz.
The Life Quiz.
Secrets to a happy and fulfilled life revealed by the famous, the fascinating, or the just plain fabulous.
Hosted by Cash Peters.
Cash Peters.
Am I right in saying that the world is going to hell?
The idea that we're going to hell right now is actually a positive.
ISIS is a positive.
Yes, because it's creating change. It's making us get to such a place that people are angry enough to do something. And that's what it takes to make change. You have to get people who are upset enough, angry enough, and ready to take action. And if everything's just okay and kind of going along and things are passable, then nobody's ever going to do anything to create change.
Hang on a minute. So God authorized these guys to saw my son's head off on TV, and that's part of a useful change process. That does seem incredibly cruel.
I absolutely see that from the human standpoint, but from the larger, more energetic standpoint, I see that behind all of that, there is a purpose. When enough people get to a place where this is no longer okay, it begins to create change. The shift has to come from this place of utter frustration. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes creating that. And everybody has their own purpose in the whole thing. For you, that purpose may be talking about all of this, bringing it to the forefront of people's minds. Your spiritual books, being able to introduce a new thought process about belief and faith and surrender to people who are taught to try to control everything. Because people are coming to this place of recognizing that what they've been doing isn't working.
Well, the shift is also from money to passion.
Sure.
Because we were all told that if you just go for money and you go for the house and you go for the car and you go for the big American dream thing,
right,
are you going to be happy? And that was all kind of brainwashing. Turns out it's not true at all.
Right.
That's what's changing people too. As more and more people go, hey, I got everything. I've worked this career. I've got the car. I've got the 2.4 kids. And look at me, I'm still unhappy. Why is that?
Yeah.
And very often it's because they haven't worked out their passion. Mm-hmm. They haven't served a purpose. They are not giving service to the world. And until you're giving service to the world, you will never be fulfilled or happy. Yeah. And no amount of money or faith, or you can go to church a million times, none of that will help if you are still living a small-time life based on what I call tribal brainwashing. But it's just based on what you thought was right, when in fact you know internally it's not for you.
Absolutely. That's really where I came from too. And it wasn't so much for me the desire for money. I mean, sure, I'd always love more money. But my focus was always on love. My focus was always on having that amazing passion and connection with somebody. I didn't care about anything else. And that was just another level of societal brainwashing. Everything I was exposed to was showing me this is what completes you. This is what makes you whole. And so I was always looking for who's the person that's going to make me feel the way I want to feel and give me what I want to have and make me look a certain way, make me feel a certain way. And I just wanted that new, fresh, passionate love and all of its trimmings all the time. That became such a terrible thing to me because I was finding over and over and over again, I would repeat that pattern of looking for that, that fresh romance and everything with somebody. And then basically they would get comfortable in the relationship, as occurs in most normal relationships when that honeymoon phase ends. And I would completely flip out. It was the end of the world to me. I would get suicidal at this point.
Over what?
Over...
That they'd got settled in the relationship?
Yes.
Meanwhile, what are you doing? You're still craving the honeymoon period.
Yes. I want that honeymoon period to go on and on and on and on. That's where my misery was. And so my purpose then became, when I figured out that that was me and not the people I was with, because certainly I spent years and years trying to change the people I was with to go back to being the person you were for that year. Come on.
Why did you need that so badly?
There's a lot of reasons I needed that so badly. A big piece of it was physical addiction to the chemical rushes that come with that. Just all of the excitement and pleasure chemicals that your body can move through you while you are in that phase on a pretty consistent basis. So I really, truly became fully addicted to
love.
Yeah, the love and the sex and all of it.
But at the same time, though, usually that comes from a hole in your childhood. It could be a chemical kind of thing within your body.
Well, that was another level of it, for
right,
sure.
But if you look back, it's usually to do with something that was gravely missing in your childhood that you've never managed to actually get back. And you spend your life. This is why a lot of people are very successful, actually. There's this vast hole, and they try to fill it. What is the hole? What is the thing from your childhood that caused you to be like that?
There was a disconnect between my stepfather and I. From day one, I really didn't resonate with him.
Do you hate the guy?
I don't hate him.
Did you ever hate him?
Probably.
What about your father? Where's your father in all this?
He's more like an uncle to me. When I was conceived, my mom was 17 and she had already broken up with my father. Then they found out that she was pregnant and they got married anyway, so that lasted maybe a year. He's a little emotionally detached. He's, doesn't like hugs,
So we've really, within the space of 2 minutes, got to the problem here. And then you get a guy you hate who takes his place, who actually doesn't give you that either. And so you grow up without any of the needs being met.
It was a very interesting situation with the stepfather. When I was 3, my mom had gotten a photo shoot for the 3 of us, and the photographer wanted me to hold his hand, and I wouldn't. And, to this day, my mom's like, why wouldn't you hold his hand? What, and it didn't feel right. I don't even think he's a bad person. I totally understand why he's the way he is.
You said you hated him.
I did then, absolutely. There were times in my upbringing where I did.
And were you afraid of him?
Of his temper. He was not physically violent, but he had a hairpin trigger temper, so every little thing was this big blow up of, if it upset him, it was the end of the world for the whole household. And
yeah, but you're 3 at this point.
Yeah.
And that really affects a child.
Sure. And I think for a long time it really squelched who I was and how I could express myself, because I always felt like I had to behave in such a way to make him comfortable or appease him.
So were you a pleaser in the end?
Oh yeah, big time.
Are you a pleaser now?
I am moving out of that. It's definitely been part of my process with everything that I've had to learn to heal myself.
So your quest for romance and your quest for the perfect relationship was really because you never had it around you, and you thought that you could somehow conjure that up and make it happen to a mold. Like fill a mold and make it happen, and that would always be for life. And you found out it wouldn't happen.
I was pretty controlling. and expecting things to be the way that I wanted and needed them to be. I was extremely narcissistic in my relationships and absolutely always going after the other person of, why don't you ever do this and give me this and do this for me? And so it was almost a rebellion against the relationship with my father and feeling like I didn't want somebody to control me in the way that I saw him behaving toward my mom, behaving toward me. And so I started to behave that way.
Well, how did you snap out of that?
Well, the recognition that my relationship misery was more about me than the people I was with was what sparked the whole healing journey for me. You know, I just one day said, what's the common denominator in all these relationships that have gone this way? And said, okay, it's me. So what about me? And then it was just this complete I would say that the universe just sent me for a PhD in metaphysics and self-help and spirituality that began because of the romantic love addiction, sex addiction stuff that I had going on at the time.
You see, what's interesting to me is we talk about a shift. There's also been a shift in the last few years away from self-help. Remember how self-help used to be the thing? And now it's shifted to self-empowerment.
Right.
It's not about helping yourself. It's about empowering yourself.
Exactly.
And there's a huge difference there. Self-help involved you changing to be something you weren't. In order to be accepted or in order to be rich or in order to find love, you had to change who you were.
Yeah.
Self-empowerment goes, you're fine as you are. Just be more of that. And don't worry about the externals. And you will get exactly what you need.
Yeah. And what's really crazy is as soon as you start to give yourself all of that stuff, it starts to come to you without any effort. So being able to fulfill myself without expecting it of anyone or anything else then makes it so that people are just chasing me down, trying to give that to me. It's amazing.
If only people realize this. I've met in my life so many people who don't get that one thing. That life is not to be chased. You don't need to chase what you want. It's not a headless chicken. You'll run around in circles trying to get it and you will always elude you. But if you relax into life as if it's sort of like a comfy armchair, that's self-empowerment and everything will be drawn to you. It's like a cat. If you go after a cat, it'll run away.
Yes.
If you just sit there, it'll come and jump on your lap. That's how life is too. That's how money is too. That's how relationships are too.
Absolutely agree with that.
People are giving their power away. So you end up like a husk of a person. Why? Because you don't have any energy left. It's all given away to your family, your boss, it's given away to your job. And you say it's about losing your essence. What is your essence then?
The essence is your higher self. So your version of how you connect with the universe, how you connect with the collective unconscious.
And is my essence your essence?
No, there's a connection between all of them. They come from the same overlying energy, but each of us has our own within us. And when we're born, that is a part of us physically. It's within us. But as we begin to suppress our emotions and live the way that other people want us to live instead of our truth, we ignore the guidance that we're getting from our higher self, from our essence. We ignore the intuitive hits we get, such as when I met my stepfather and, I didn't want to hold hands with him in that picture. That was programmed out of me eventually. That's rude. That's not okay to do that. You don't want to hurt that person's feelings. So even though everything in you is telling you, I don't want to bond with this person, you're being told, well, you have to. We have billions of things happening to us the entire time we're growing up, where we pay less and less and less attention to that inner wisdom. So this is really about bringing that back into you and plugging it in, just basically using the intention to pull that essence back in and to begin honoring it.
Just stop giving your power away, basically.
Yes. Start paying attention to the signals that you get when you are tuned in like that.
But you know what happens? People then accuse you of being selfish. And actually, selfishness has got a terrible rap in the society. I think it's a really good word. It's the only way you can set boundaries.
Yeah. When you are centered in that way, you have so much more to give because you are plugged into the eternal source of energy that you're meant to be plugged into. And it's very hard for others to deplete you when you're in that place because you've got all of this fantastic energy flowing through you and you have the wisdom to know how to take care of yourself.
Well, that's a higher vibration state. That's
Yes.
raising your vibration. And every time you give your power away, you lower your vibration. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people are depleted in that way. That's why people commit suicide, I think. They've given their power away. Not
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
but a lot of the time.
I mean, and that's certainly where I was when I became suicidal about all of that.
Why? Because
many
you could
times.
never achieve perfection.
It never continued looking the way that I wanted it to continue looking.
And you would kill yourself rather than go without perfection.
Obviously, I never followed through with it. But I considered it many times. And I think when I was younger, it was, oh, wouldn't they feel bad if I killed myself? And also then I won't have to deal with this pain anymore. But also it was a piece of sort of getting back at them for not doing what I wanted. Scary. And then later it shifted, but it was mainly just because I really felt that my primary happiness and the most important thing in my life was to have the love life that I wanted. And because I had really been so deeply programmed that that was the thing that was most important, when it didn't look right, all of life didn't look right. And so I would become very miserable. I would hyper-focus, like really, 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 really obsess for hours a day about the fact that my love life did not look the way I wanted it to.
How young were you when you realized you were gay?
I don't consider myself gay. When I was 19, I got Madonna's sex book. And I looked through that and I said, oh my gosh, this is hot. And it was the androgyny. There were women with women in that book, men with men with women, men dressed as women, women dressed like men. And
Yeah, but it's a book of photos.
yes.
It's not real life.
But it turned me on. That was the first signal to me that I found androgyny sexy, that I was open to men or women. It just brought a level of awareness to me.
But during your rough time, were you trying it with men and women?
I married my high school sweetheart.
Who was a man?
So, yes. And so I didn't really get to explore the bisexuality at a young age. And it kind of came about in an interesting way later on.
When you realized that men weren't for you.
Well, more that I just met a person that connected with me on such a deep level. To me, it doesn't matter whether it's male or female. So as soon as I met my wife, when we interacted, especially sexually, but not just sexually, it was like our souls were connecting and making love. And what our bodies were up to were secondary to that. We would look into each other's eyes and see each other as old and young and different dimensions and just this intense beauty. And neither of us had ever experienced that before. So for me, it was never about, oh, I'm aching to have this gay experience or I'm supposed to be with a woman. It was simply feeling a disconnect. And
But can you imagine yourself marrying another guy?
he would have to be super, super, super enlightened and in touch with some level of his femininity. And unfortunately, that would be a gay man. So,
Well, exactly. This is why so many straight women have gay friends, because that's the only way they can get close to being gay. But you see, if you're a guy and you want to know if you're gay or not, and people go, I don't know, I'm bisexual, I can't decide. Here's the answer. Somebody told me this years ago, and I never forgot it, and it was absolutely right. Here's how you decide if you're gay or not. Your cock decides. That's the answer. If when you walk into a room and there's actually an incredibly attractive man there and you get an erection, you're gay. It's fine. It's just your body doing the natural thing. If a woman comes in and she's extravagantly beautiful and you get an erection, there's every chance you're straight.
so a couple of things. First of all, I really believe in the Kinsey scale, which is the scale of gay to straight, with bisexual dead in the center. I think that most of us are born closer to the center, but certainly I think there are outliers who are either far to the gay side or far to the straight side, but for most people, especially if they're really open-minded, are kind of in that middle, to where it depends more on the person and their spirit, who they're going to connect with. So the other piece is that, you're talking about what arouses you. And I really find that both do. I can look at a beautiful woman and absolutely feel aroused by that. And also to see the male body, especially with an erection. You know, there's something about like that bulge in the underwear or the pants or something. It's very sexy. So I totally see both as very sexual and arousing.
But how do, forgive me, this is a genuine question.
Yes.
That I don't know the answer to. If a beautiful woman or man came into this room now, so you're going to be attracted to either of them, how does that arousal take place? How would I know from the outside? I wouldn't. For women, it's an internal thing.
Women have teeny, tiny, tiny penis called the clitoris. So the same thing happens. There's a level of engorgement that happens. I don't know that it's quite as active as the male gland is in that way, but, you know, a woman gets aroused in that way too. So
you know,
yeah,
down there,
yeah.
if you're attracted in
Well,
between.
I think that with women, there is definitely much more of an emotional complication that occurs. So, yes, our bodies may say we are physically attracted to somebody, but our emotions and our scars play so much of a role into who we feel we can trust, who we feel we can connect with, and who our essence really bonds with. I feel like a lot of what we decide to do and who we decide to marry and all of that has a lot to do with what's going to be accepted by others.
So you're betraying yourself. It's the ultimate disempowerment, actually,
Yeah.
when you are not who you are. Because nothing goes deeper than that, sexual identity.
And spiritually speaking, androgyny is the ultimate in enlightenment. Because when you can sort of lose that definition of, I'm a woman, so I behave this way, or I'm a man, so I behave this way, and find that balance to be able to embrace both your masculine and feminine aspects while you're in physical form in a physical body is incredible, especially considering our cultural programming.
To my mind, there are certain things you have to do in life if you're going to be whole and you're going to be at least marginally happy. And part of it is retrieving the bits you've given away, the bits that have disempowered you by their absence. And that's sexual identity. That is that desire to win and lose. And you know, if you're no good if you don't have this diploma, or if you haven't been to that college, you're a lesser person, all those sort of things.
Right.
So how would you ever reclaim your essence, your power, your core, when you are so heavily invested in society's attempts to rob you of it?
Well, I think it takes hitting rock bottom. Getting to a place where you recognize that you can't live like this anymore. Where you decide, I either need to check out of this life or I need to change the way that I'm living it.
Is it okay to commit suicide?
Yes. I know that's shocking to say because our culture is very programmed with that's not okay and you go to hell and ugh. Honestly, in what I believe, we just come back again if we choose to. But that essentially the body dies. But our body and our brain is just a tool for our essence to be able to function on this physical plane. So when we commit suicide, we are just basically getting rid of that physical body and brain. We're not killing the essence of the being. So the essence continues and can choose, okay, I'm going to go do this other experience and be in this body this time. I honestly don't feel like it's that big of a deal to commit suicide, except that it is the biggest deal in the world to the people you leave behind. And that's the difficulty in all of it, because the person who's leaving gets to return to their pure form. Okay, good for them. But their friends and family and whoever they end up leaving behind that will mourn them and maybe doesn't see things from that perspective, it can be terribly painful and seem like the end of the world.
Where it really plays into it is in what Gary Zukav said years ago on Oprah. I remember this very, very vividly. He's the guy who wrote the Seat of the Soul book that was multi-million seller. And he said, if you want to commit suicide, spiritually, that's okay. Go do it. Unless I'm maligning this guy terribly, I think that's what he said. But if you do it, at some point in the future, somebody's going to walk into a room that you were going to help, I guess, or you would have a major effect on their life. And subconsciously, they're going to go, where is he? Or where is she? And you won't be there.
Why I'm glad I never followed through when I wanted to die, because I did feel like there was something I was supposed to be doing. I just didn't know what that was, and I couldn't get out of my own way for the longest time to recognize that there was something bigger than chasing the thrill of new love.
You have things to do.
Yeah.
You have a purpose. There are people you have to meet. There are lives you're going to impact. Get off your ass, stop crying, and get out there. And that's why people have to switch from self-interest to service at times when they're really low. Don't get in the shower and cry. I mean, it's okay to get in the shower and cry. I have no problem with that.
But then go do something else.
But then do something for somebody else. Dry yourself off. Feel sorry for yourself for half an hour. But just that day, go and serve somebody. And everything should change, I would have thought. That's been my experience.
Yeah. I think that sometimes people hear that message and think, oh, well, now I have to go work in a soup kitchen, or I have to go donate money to charity, or
go
whatever.
And do that.
But if you're feeling pressured to do that, if you feel like, oh, well, that's what I'm supposed to do, then you're not going to get anything good out of it. It's more coming from a place of you sharing your gifts with others in a way that feels good and excites you. And I think that sometimes that can be really difficult for people who don't even have the connection with who they are anymore. That they're so disconnected from their essence that they don't even know what that passion would be. It really just takes looking at, okay, what do I love to do? And looking at what am I good at naturally? You know, not things that I went to school and learned how to do, but what has always come naturally to me. It's about getting the chi moving in your body again so that you're not allowing that depression and anxiety to be at the forefront of what you're feeling and paying attention to, but that you're getting all of this good energy moving through you again so that you feel alive and invigorated. And the more that you are living your passion and really fully in your essence, the more the universe is going to reward that with a lot of different things. So it's incredible to be able to help other people and get paid for it. And I think that previously in our culture, the thought of helping other people was always something you would do as a volunteer or something that you were doing to be more charitable, to almost meet expectations of others rather than as a reward for yourself. And first of all, I find all of that really unhealthy. And I don't think that it got people anywhere. I don't think it really created a level of fulfillment because for most people, that's not their passion. And so they're not following their passion and getting the rewards in that. And that's a part of the reason that volunteering doesn't necessarily pay the bills or give you fulfillment. But if you find something that you love and that you're good at and that you're passionate about, most of the time that's going to be some way to help people.
It's about giving service in a way that gets your juices flowing.
Exactly.
If your juices don't flow, don't do it. It's like finding a man or finding a woman. If your cock doesn't rise
That's right.
or your clitoris doesn't vibrate, don't date them.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, who's ready to do the life quiz?
Me.
We'll be back after the break.
The Life Quiz is brought to you by Penner Press, a boutique publisher with a global mission to expand minds and change lives. Penner Press publishes books that the big boys would never dare, including 2 of Cash Peter's most popular works, A Little Book About Believing and Why Your Life Matters, available as ebooks and in paperback. The future is being made right now, so check out books by Penners today and dare to start living the bold, bright, healthy new life you know you deserve. Penner Press. Now, back to the Life Quiz.
Welcome back. It's time for round 1 of the life quiz. There are 3 rounds altogether, based on life and what living has taught you and whatever. It's easy. Don't look so worried. But before we get there, there's a question I always ask everybody. What's the number 1 lesson life has taught you?
Wow. That's a big one. The number 1 lesson life has taught me, that I have to fulfill myself, that I can't wait for somebody else to give me what I want, internally or externally, that it's all me, and that everything I experience and perceive and judge, it's all me. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It's all just what I've got going on mentally, emotionally, physically.
You know, I tend to think that once you are in a self-empowered state, I guess you would say once your essence is intact and you've kind of reclaimed it, you become a light around which other people can gather and gain illumination, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
But you don't have to illuminate them. They gain illumination by being around you because your light is shining so strongly.
Yeah, and it's not going to do any good to chase after them going, hey, pay attention to this, listen to this, learn this from me, if they're not looking for it, if they're not ready for it. And so the best thing that you can do is just to shine your own light and hope that when they're ready, they come looking for that. And to, at the very least, make them feel good when they're around you by feeling good yourself.
You can't make people feel good. You can only feel good about yourself. Then they
Right.
feel good by rubbing off against you. Right?
Yes. I hope they don't rub up against me too much.
So round one of the life quiz. This is the experience round. All this says basically is you've lived a while. You've seen stuff. You've been through the mill a couple of times.
Okay.
And this is about really what you've learned over the years. Question 1. Give me one major thing you would have done very differently or not done at all if you'd known how your life was going to turn out.
Well, I want to start this with the disclaimer that I feel like everything that I've done has led up to where I am right now. So it's very difficult to look at my past history and think of anything as a regret.
Well, you wouldn't have married a man.
Yeah, I would have. We have a wonderful son together. He's been fantastic as far as being a dad and being a support. And he and I had a good connection when we were younger. So there's a history there, and there's certainly something that we gave each other. So I don't really feel that it was necessarily a mistake to marry him. The thing that maybe was a mistake with us was that I specifically chose him because he felt safe. So I suppose playing a little bit more when I was younger would have been nicer. Maybe playing the field a little bit or having an earlier experience with a woman might have been fun. But I think the biggest thing is that it was just safe with him. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't head over heels love. It was just, well, this is safe and my parents like him and I feel comfortable with him and I know that he'd never cheat on me and I know, so it was much more out of this sense of peace and comfort with him than it was about, oh, I'm so in love, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person.
So the thing you would have done differently is not play safe.
Yeah,
And that's a lesson for life, actually.
sure.
Very often when you play safe, it really isn't about you. You are not going to later on make the connection with people who actually need to meet you for their benefit. It's the same as suicide. Suicide essentially is playing safe. It's not
Yeah.
daring to be your full self, or not daring to go ahead and take life by the scruff of the neck and say, okay, I'm not bowing down to this. I will succeed over this.
Yep.
Whenever you play safe in life, where you stay in a marriage that isn't working, or you do it just for the kids, or you live in an area because you happen to have your family there, or
Right.
whatever it is, you stay in a job because you've got, like, I've met people who got a pension coming in 40 years, so they're just going to stay with it till then, so they get their pension.
Yeah.
They always live very, very mediocre, not necessarily unhappy, but mediocre lives, and they are full of what-ifs.
I remember growing up that my dad especially, he was a career counselor for like a rehabilitation center for the state. He was definitely all about you have to have a job with benefits and this and that. And basically, in my mind, he was directing me right into a cubicle. What I wanted was to go to cosmetology school. And he thought that was the most ridiculous thing he had ever heard of. But playing it safe really isn't playing it safe. It's risking your health and your sanity, first of all. And now, with the way that things are in the world, for instance, my uncle worked as an EMT in Detroit for years and years and years and retired there. And so you think you're going to get this great pension, and then the city goes bankrupt. And now they're asking him for money. They're taking back some of the retirement money they have already given him. So there's no such thing as playing it safe. You can't just do a job because you think it's going to get you the benefits or the safety or the security or any of that. You have to do something you love.
Or if you're
It's
unhappy
not
in the
worth living.
marriage, leave.
Yes.
Your soul, whatever
Yeah.
it is saying, come on, it's time. And if it isn't saying that, stay where you are. But if
Yeah.
it's saying move, if it's saying grow, if it's saying try this, go.
Yes.
Do it now. It's time. So what are we saying then? One major thing you would have done differently.
I would not have played it safe
Right.
the way that I did. I wouldn't have
You would have
just
got out there
gotten
sooner.
married I wouldn't have gotten married just because it was safe, and I wouldn't have just continued going to school for things I wasn't passionate about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question 2. Nominate one characteristic about yourself that you would have changed if you could, which would have made you a better person to know.
Narcissism.
Did it make you a horror?
In my relationships, yeah. In other aspects of my life, not so much, but in my romantic relationships, it absolutely did.
You see, what's interesting about you, I don't know whether you've even thought, why am I among these 6 people that he's interviewing? Why did I choose you? When I met you, it was very brief, but what made you interesting to me was that you had incredibly pained eyes. You were smiling away, you were all jolly, and you were full of life, but your eyes were full of pain. Less so now, actually.
Yeah.
You seem a lot better now.
Yes.
But at the time I met you a couple of years ago, you were full of pain.
Yeah.
So what was the pain?
It was still the love thing. The ridiculous obsession with wanting more passion, and I thought that had to come through sex and intimacy and connection with another human being, not recognizing that I could figure out how to feel that passion myself without sex, without
Was it
romance.
panic I was seeing, though? There was panic. I mean, I'm very big on looking at people's eyes. I
Yeah.
really do read into it, what they're thinking. And I saw panic. I saw a little fury. There was sadness. There was fear.
Yeah.
You were a real cauldron of a lot of emotions.
That was only a couple years ago.
And that's all
Right.
gone.
Most of it
So
seems
how?
to be
What
gone.
was the
Yes.
catalyst?
I feel like it was drive to not feel like that anymore.
You reprogram yourself.
Yes. I didn't want to feel what I was feeling. And had you met me a year or two before that, you would have seen way more misery and fury, because I was furious that I wasn't getting the relationship that I wanted and for it to look exactly the way I wanted it to. But I was also horribly depressed about it. I was stressed out about it. There were so many aspects and layers to what I was struggling through. So by the time we met, I had worked through some of it, but there was still a lot of it that would come up. And I found that throughout my whole healing journey, it was a lot of ups and downs. Now I catch it within 10 seconds. And I'm no, brain, how many times have we gone there? Where has it gotten us? And honestly, at this point, I'm like, really? Do I need somebody else to do these actions for me to feel happy? Or do I just want to meditate and turn a dial in my head and get that feeling right now and give it to myself? And then almost like magic, have that appear in my life without having to do anything external to ask for it. So there has been a huge amount of change and reprogramming, both consciously and subconsciously, since we last met. That has changed a lot.
Your eyes are
Or-
much better. Your eyes actually now reflect a certain happiness and contentment, which they didn't before.
Well, I appreciate that. I like that feedback.
Question 3. What's one lesson in life that you were once told was true, but which you found not to be true at all?
The entire culture that we live under is one big fat lie. It's ridiculous. Everything that we're taught as far as functioning in the world is ridiculous.
Such as what? Give me an example.
For instance, what we talked about with work, having to have a stable job that gives you benefits and security. That's a ridiculous lie.
Because the truth is, you should be
begin with.
looking for how you can serve society, and then the rewards come once you've followed your passionate desire to serve, not
Yeah.
by you applying for 1,000 jobs and hoping to be rewarded with benefits and
Yeah.
a desk and a corner
Right.
office. But that has been the way for so long that people have forgotten there's another way.
And that's just one of a million different things that we get taught. If you look at all of the romance novels, romantic comedies, love stories, love songs, breakup songs, all of that is programming us to expect certain things out of our relationships. And that is the hugest lie of all, because to expect somebody else to do something that's going to complete you in any way is the most ridiculous thing you can do. On the back of my book, it talks about, do you have the house, the car, the husband, the job, and all of that, and you're still not happy. That's how most people feel. We think that we're supposed to have all these things, and that suddenly when we have all of those goals met, we're just going to sit there and be happy. And it doesn't work that way. You're just sitting there with all that stuff. And then inside your chest, you're aching for something else, and then you start looking for food or start gambling or shopping or whatever it is to, try to fill it, and none of that is going to do it.
But how long does it take to learn that? I learned
Yeah.
it. I knew it. This is what's so odd. I knew it when I was young. When
I wish I did.
Well, I think a lot of people do, but I knew it when I was about 8 or 9.
Well, with religion and spirituality, I very much felt the same way. By the time I was 10 years old, I was going, what is this? My dad's Jewish, my mom's Catholic. And it wasn't that the two were contradicting each other. They were contradicting themselves. I was just going, how is God forgiving and vengeful? It didn't make any sense at all to me. But I knew there was something more. I just couldn't figure out what it was. And, even through high school and everything, I was looking for some kind of faith or something, but there wasn't anything available. I looked into Wicca, and that's all full of all of these rituals and ceremonial things and all of these physical processes you have to go through, and that didn't appeal to me either.
A lot of women with split ends, I seem to remember.
I don't want to put down anyone's faith, because if they find some level of meaning in that, that's fantastic. But I found no meaning in the faiths that I was presented with. None whatsoever.
So maybe that's the lie. Maybe that was the
Yeah.
actual lie you were told that turned out not to be true.
That is a big one. A really big one.
Excellent. Question 5. What is your greatest sadness or disappointment about the way life has unfolded for you?
You've been talking about chasing money, and I would certainly love to be in a more prosperous place.
So you're disappointed you didn't make money.
Yeah, so just kind of feeling like I would like to be a little more comfortable. And
What's the disappointment, though? That God didn't step up and give you money when he gave other people money? Is it a jealousy thing?
No, it's more of a feeling that what I have done so far hasn't paid off financially. And I think that it comes down to that fear of not being a success, or that fear of not... Still, the continuation of the American dream of wanting to have certain things and be in a certain place and all of that. And while I've come to the place where I understand that money doesn't give you happiness or fulfillment, it certainly allows you to travel when you want to travel, and live where you want to live, and play when you want to play. So I would love that freedom more.
But maybe you're in exactly the right place with exactly the right amount of money for who you need to be right now.
Absolutely. And I
And
completely agree with that.
And you
Yes.
should actually be happy with that and not think, I wish I had more money, because that will only drive the money away.
On principle, I absolutely agree with that. And that is exactly what I would say to somebody as well.
But I really believe that, though.
Yeah.
This isn't just a principle. I mean, I really
Right.
believe that.
Yeah. And
But you don't believe it.
I believe it on one level. But there's the years and years and years of programming that I've had from this culture and from my upbringing, and just the overall expectations in general that one has when you go to work and you want to have certain results occur from that. So I go back and forth between this place of, I'm really happy to be here. I love my life the way it is, and I'm just here and enjoying it. And then once in a while, that little thing pops up like, hey, where's the money? Let's bring more money in here. Come on. So it's not something that I obsess over, but if, you're asking the question of what I wish might be a little bit different, that's the first thing that right now pops up. If you'd have asked me 3 years ago, I'd have been like, sex and passion.
A lack of. But you see, the thing is that there were years when I was like that, right? When I was in my early 40s, why was I not incredibly wealthy? I remember that I turned down a lot of jobs that would have paid me a lot of money because they didn't feel right to me. One I turned down, which would have been the equivalent of like $600,000. And I said no to it because on principle I didn't like the product they were asking me to promote. And they were shocked that I turned down this product. It was for a detergent. It was for a soap powder that I had to say was the whitest and cleaned everything the brightest. And I'd used it and it didn't.
Well, good for you.
And I stood in that studio and it was down to 2 of us. And they said, okay, go for it. And I said, I can't do this. My agent went nuts at the time. My agent went absolutely nuts. I said, you've got to give it to the other guy. And the director goes, why? I said, because it's a really terrible product. It doesn't get these things whiter. It made my clothes grayer, if anything. And I can't go around telling people it's great. And so by the time I got to like my 40s and was thinking, why have I not got any money? The reason was that I was saying no to money all the way down the line on principle.
Yeah.
But the truth was that if I had made a ton of money, kind of FU money,
Right.
sitting down at a bar, getting drunk money when I could have been working, I would have never done my travel show. I would never have written the Believing book. And I would never have written Why Your Life Matters.
Yeah.
I would have just been in a bar drinking or in the Bahamas in a hotel enjoying myself. And it's a lack of money that has always kept me fired up to the next idea.
And I'm a huge believer in really being pushed by the universe to do what needs to get done.
And that's what it is. Maybe you're in a financial position you're in because if you weren't, you would travel, you'd have great times, and the urgency to serve the world would not be there.
Right.
There we are. That's solved your problems.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I see things as well. So, yeah, absolutely.
Question 6. If you had to pass on one piece of wisdom or advice to an impressionable child, what would it be?
Trust yourself.
In what way?
Paying attention to your body's signals. Like, for instance, that feeling that somebody isn't safe or that you don't resonate with the person.
Oh, you mean your intuition?
Yes.
Not your physical signals. You mean intuitive.
But when you're young, especially, that comes in a lot of times in a physical way, like kind of getting a knot in your stomach around that person or not feeling good around them. And so it can show up in a lot of different ways, but just being able to pay attention to your signals of whether something resonates with you or not, whether you're meant to continue interacting with a specific person or not, or a situation, place. And you and I were talking about that you'll go to a place and not feel good about the energy in that place and decide to go somewhere else. Kids aren't given that option.
Because who are you trusting, really? Or what are you trusting? That's a hard one. Are you getting signals from unseen forces? Is it your guides? Is it God? Where is this coming from?
Well,
Who
I
is
feel like
speaking
it's
to you?
your own internal guidance system, like your essence, communicating with you and showing you safe, not safe, good, not good.
Now, if we only paid more attention to that.
I think that we're born to pay attention to that, but then we're programmed out of paying attention to that because as children, we don't have the sovereignty to say, I don't feel good in this place and I'm not going in there, because our parents are like, no, you're going in the damn grocery store, whether you like it or not, and you're going to be polite to this person, whether you like it or not. So the advice that I would give is to continue holding on to that, to pay attention to it, even if you're being told not to continue holding on to that because it's a gift, that you are meant to have that ability to know what's right for you and what's not right for you, just by that immediate instinct, that feeling that comes up within you, or that thought that pops up tells you right away that this is for you or not for you.
But it's kind of true for an impressionable adult as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Trust yourself. Okay. Question 7. Why do you think you were put on the planet? Are you satisfied that you fully justified your time here?
I really do feel right now like I am living my purpose. I don't feel that I have already fulfilled it, but I am in the thick of doing that.
And what were you put on the planet for?
To help people wake up to the illusion that we've been living and the lie that we've been living, to help people recognize that there is a different way to look at life and to experience life, and that it can be a positive experience, and that you can enjoy this ride rather than judging it and dwelling on every little negative thing, that you can live in a place of positivity and centeredness and joy here, as opposed to the constant fear, negativity, pain, wishing that things were other than they are. And
Which is pervaded by the media.
Right.
And the government.
Yeah.
Because they want you to be kept down. As ridiculously conspiratorial as that sounds. It's like the education system. They go, our priority is educating our kids. They are our future. Well, yes, they are our future. But if you educate them, they become thinking people with critical thoughts. And critical thoughts are really bad for a government. So they necessarily defund education as much as they can. Because the dumber and dimmer the kids are, the less they think. And the less they think, the more they vote with their emotions. The more they vote with their emotions, the more they can watch the commercials put out by the Koch brothers and go, oh, sure, I'll follow that because that's got my emotions going. If they had critical thought, which comes from education, they would go, I'm not doing that. That's just a lie.
And the schools aren't teaching critical thinking. They're not teaching you how to solve a problem. They're just teaching you how to take tests.
Well, because that keeps them occupied. It keeps students busy. The moment they sit down and are taught to read, again, don't read. Don't read. Don't read books. Books are so uncool. Don't watch documentaries. They're so uncool. Listen to this album or play this video game.
Right.
And that's fine. I've nothing against anything. But it's taking your focus away from critical thought. And every time you do that, you are playing into the hands of those who will manipulate you. It's a distraction. The whole thing's a distraction.
Right.
Question 8. What's your legacy? When your biography is written, what will it say you did to make the world a better place?
Wow. Big.
It's the life quiz, baby.
Yeah. Well, I remember doing an exercise like that probably about 15 years ago when my son was young. And I was in a little bit of a state of upheaval at that time as well. I think like every 10 years, I sort of tried to find my faith and tried to figure out what it was that I believed and what my purpose was. And that was around the time I read The Seed of the Soul. But I also was doing some kind of exercise. I don't know, maybe it was from The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. And I had to write my eulogy. And there was something in there about being a humanitarian and a healer. And what's weird is at that time, I didn't even know what that was.
But what is your legacy, though? I'm not getting to the crux of this. What is your legacy?
My legacy now is probably just what it was then, to want to help people. I think that healing now means something different than it did then to me. It's not only a physical healing, it's a complete and total mental and emotional healing and shift to perceiving things completely differently than we're taught to. Once you heal your mind and the way you're seeing things, you heal everything. And you're more benefit to those around you, too. Really, it's about wanting to help everyone shift to a happier, healthier place.
Question 9. In what way are you still searching?
To some extent, I'm still working on not reaching for acceptance from others. I still have a level of wanting people to like me, but I'm working on it. So I'm not nearly in that place as much as I used to be. It was a huge, huge, huge part of my life before.
You were very needy, right?
Yes. And now it's quite subdued from where it was, but it's still there. It still lingers underneath, and it doesn't feel good if you think somebody doesn't like you or doesn't agree with you or doesn't approve of what you're up to. And doing interviews like this and, oh, what if my parents hear this? And, is it going to hurt my dad's feelings if he thinks I don't like him? Or that kind of stuff is still in there. It's still a part of who I am. And I think to some extent I may always have some level of that because
we all want
I don't
validation.
want
There's
to,
nothing wrong with
I don't
that.
want to hurt anybody.
Nor should you hurt anybody. The point
Right.
is, though, you don't behave like a jerk and hurt people, but you can't go around craving validation. If validation is your fuel, you'll never achieve anything. Because
Right.
you'll always be looking outward for somebody else to say, yep, that's okay, you can do that. It's for you to go, I validate myself. This feels good to me. The intuitive thing is there. The
Yeah.
engine's going. I can feel like I'm moving. I validate myself, and this is what I'm going to do. And after that, it's totally up to the rest of the world whether they join in on your bandwagon. Question 10. What, in your view, is the bigger purpose of life? Why are we here?
I feel that we are experiencing something physical as physical beings on the physical plane that we, in our pure essence form, can't experience. So the fact that there is difficulty here and struggle, but there is also great beauty and ecstasy here, it's what we come here for. It's like our soul's version of going to an amusement park for the day. Because our spirit is infinite, our essence is infinite. And these brief little lifetimes seem like nothing to our essence. It's just another step, another day, another experience. Where to us physically, it seems like this very long, drawn-out thing and this vast experience of torture and pain and happiness and joy. And so we come into these physical bodies on this physical plane to experience something that we cannot, in our natural form, experience. And I think that perhaps we got a little off track, and that things aren't as awesome as we could possibly make them. But my hope is that we can move in the direction of kind of creating here on the physical plane something a little closer to what we are in our natural state in between.
If we could get out of ego and get out of power,
Yes.
and the American dream type yearning for outside stuff and validation, if we could just live and enjoy what we have and the beauty around us and stop trying to control others, stop trying to force ourselves on others, stop trying to dictate how others should live, life would be closer to what it's meant to be. It would
Yes.
be an experience
Right.
and an adventure, not a grueling ordeal of day-to-day
Right.
control issues and fighting and trying to win.
Yeah,
Okay, are we happy?
agreed.
All right, that's the end of round one. We'll be back round.
Ding, ding.
Bing, bing. We'll be back with round two very shortly. Hi there, everyone. Since this is the final show of the season, I first of all want to send out huge thanks to everyone who made a contribution to the Keep the Podcast Going Fund. That's so nice of you. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast anyway, and it was done as a labor of love, and I'm glad I did it as a labor of love. But, you know, it costs money. That's the dilemma here, and we know that when we set out on the road to do these kind of things. But weirdly, donating, which you can do on the website, thelifequiz.net. But donating is not the only way to help out in this situation. It's a great way, but there are others. You can, for instance, give the show a 5-star review on iTunes. That really helps. A 5-star review on iTunes, and leave a favourable comment too, because people take notice of the comments. You can like the show's Facebook page and share it with others. You could, even if you wanted to, go to soundcloud.com, which is where the podcast comes from, take the link for the podcast from there and paste it on wherever you like, Twitter or any other place you think people will see it. Basically, whatever gets word out there is really valuable. I didn't know when I started that anyone would pay attention to this podcast at all, quite honestly. But in the past month, over 1,000 people have listened. Not a huge number. I mean, it's not millions or anything, but for the first month, that's pretty incredible. And those listeners are located all over the globe, including Taiwan and Azerbaijan and Poland and Italy. I mean, we're affecting hearts and we're changing minds in some cases. Everywhere. And that's a good thing. So please, give, share, promote, comment, whatever you feel like, so that these new ideas can make an impact on the world. That's all I'm asking. All right, now back to the podcast with my guest, April Adams. Okay, we're back. This is round 2 with April Adams sitting the live quiz, and this is a blind round. There are 15 questions in this round. Your face has just dropped. But you get to choose 5 of them. The trick is you don't actually know what the questions are. You just have to choose the numbers. So if you pick a number between 1 and 15, please.
1.
What's the biggest curveball life has thrown your way?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is when I began doing metaphysical things, when I began healing work and getting into all of that, I kept asking to be psychic. I kept asking to be made clairvoyant.
Asking who?
The universe, the divine, whoever I could get a hold of.
Whoever was in that night and answering the phone.
Just shouting at the sky like, make me clairvoyant, make me a medium. This sounds really cool. I want to be able to do that. And the journey that's taken me on, that when I finally got to the place where I started to get some clairvoyant images and started to develop mediumship abilities, that I really don't need them. That they're not a part of my bigger purpose. So they're wonderful in conjunction with the healing and coaching work that I do, but they're not the thing that I'm supposed to do. I'm not going to go and be Long Island Medium and get my own TV show and give people mediumship readings, because that's not my purpose. That's not the gift that I'm meant to share with the world. I thought that's what I wanted so much. And then when it came to me, by then I was just going, this is not my purpose. It's a nice little add-on. If I'm working with somebody who needs to contact a deceased loved one to move on with something, I can do that for them, but it's not the end-all be-all that I thought it would be.
Right, okay. Choose another number.
3.
Where do we go after we die?
Where do we go? I don't really feel like there is a where. I think it's more of a shifting from being within a physical being to just being.
But the mistake people make is that they think you take your personality with you, and you don't, right? Your personality is purely connected to your physical being. Your ego is connected. Your life experience is connected in terms of, I went there, I lived here. All the physical stuff stays here. What goes is whatever you choose to call it in this vocabulary, the essence, the spirit, the whatever, that goes. The splinter of light that is part of the divine consciousness, that all goes back to, the drop goes back to the ocean. But there's no personality attached to it.
I think that there is a little bit in the essence of who we are overall, and that some piece of that carries over lifetime to lifetime. That spark that we recognize in each other when we meet somebody that we've been in other lifetimes with, and there's this immediate knowing. I know this person, they're familiar to me. So there's something that continues to remain with your essence in between lives. I really don't know how much of that
It might
connects.
just be like stamps on a passport.
Yeah.
That's your record of where you've been. And you may lose everything else, but you take some kind of ethereal passport with you that has left some wound or some unfinished business or
Right, because I do
something.
feel like some people carry things from other lifetimes that still keep them wrapped up in certain programming in this lifetime, or even create the need for them to repeat the same patterns over and over again.
I had past life regression once, and I was a thief in this life. Very vivid it was. I had a different accent, I looked different, I looked in a mirror and I saw a different face, and it
Wow.
freaked me the hell out.
I bet.
And it was all about thieving. I was stealing things from houses and stuff like that. And my big issue in this life is security. Ask my partner about security, and I'm all about security. For no reason, really. And so that carries over from that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I feel that it's a little mysterious as to what we bring with us and what we don't when we go from lifetime to lifetime. Because I think there is some level of us that is almost an ethereal version of our physical self going through one lifetime. Our spirit does that throughout eternity. So each lifetime would be like a day and what they're learning that day, and just carrying certain things along, just
and all
like
the
we
stuff
do.
that we think is important is just
Right.
filler.
Yeah.
Not important, and we should just enjoy it while we're here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's so short in the whole picture of things.
yeah.
I agree. Choose another number.
5.
At what point did it all become real for you?
Can you clarify what became real?
It. Life. Experience, responsibility. Being here and having it mean something. Maybe when
Yeah.
you didn't commit suicide.
That's quite possible.
Because that's a
And-
commitment then. You committed to
Yeah.
life.
I think it was more of just not committing to the suicide. Because it wasn't an absolute decision to not kill myself.
No, but you're not living by
But-
default. You're living by choice now.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
So there we are. So
Yeah.
you're living by choice, and
And-
therefore it became real when you made that commitment.
If I would put my finger on a time when that happened, it would probably be in the moment where I realized that it was me creating my own misery and issues rather than others.
And merely claiming that truth changed everything.
It started me on the process to changing everything. Yeah. That was what finally made me recognize that I had to stop trying to change everyone and everything outside of me and to figure out what was going on in here that was creating my external reality and my misery about it. That started me on the whole journey to heal myself and immediately transitioned into me also helping others to do the same thing. It was almost instantaneous that when I started to do things for myself to do that, that people were already seeking me out to learn it from me too.
Because your light grew brighter,
Yeah,
and they were drawn towards it.
yeah.
That's how it worked. It's very simple, yet not easy to make that transition. Once you shine your light, and you shine it as brightly as you can, then everybody's drawn to you. Money is drawn to you, love is drawn to you,
Yeah.
everything. But it involves you standing still and letting life come to you while taking action.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that confuses people. You have to
think
take
so,
action,
yeah.
but you have to stand still in a way, spiritually, and be composed and centered and in your power for others to pick up the light. The way a lighthouse stands on a rock.
Yeah.
It doesn't run out there into the ocean going, hey, everybody, come over here. There's no rocks. It stands there and says, this is where the rocks are. Here's how you avoid them, right?
Yeah.
Pick another number.
13.
Speaking of which, are you a beacon or a light reflected?
I really live from the place of wanting to be the beacon and doing what I can to remain in that space. But I feel that we all reflect each other as well. So I think I might be thinking about that term in a different way than you are. But what I'm looking at is that, for instance, when I'm helping a client through something and I channel a message for them or give a healing to a certain area of their body, I will often find that there's something related to that I needed to hear, or something in that area of my body that's suffering too. And not just because I'm empathically tuned into them, but because that's what's also going on in my life. So we attract people who reflect back to us what's going on. And so when my clients come to me, they've manifested me to show them something about themselves. And when my clients show up, I've manifested them to show me something about myself. So there's that reflection point there where we're all mirrors for each other.
Yeah, but it's not the light you're reflecting at that point. You're reflecting the shadows because it's that where you learn, right?
There's also a reflection of light too. Because when we appreciate something about someone else, that's usually showing us something about us that we also love and resonate with and like about ourselves. So there's a level of mirroring the light to each other as well. So it's not only the shadow aspect that we mirror back and forth to each other. But if I really like something about you, it's probably because there's something in me, that's very similar, and I see that similarity in you. And
but
then
if I annoy the hell out of you, there's a chance that there's something in me that you're supposed to learn from.
Yeah. When somebody annoys you, it's because they are showing you some aspect of yourself that you either dislike, won't recognize, or won't allow.
Okay, the last question. Miraculously, a genie appears and grants you 3 wishes. Anything is now possible. What would they be? And of course, you can't ask for 3 more wishes.
Darn!
Darn!
The first wish would be to be able to create a level of healing for everyone on the earth plane, to be able to see beyond the smallness that they're in right now, to be able to empower themselves and to find a level of peace, balance, centeredness, and happiness here, and to be able to live a more meaningful life.
Okay, you've done your good for the world. Wish 2.
Let's be truthful here. I would love to be able to feel giddy most of the time, to just be in this place of feeling free and giddy as my primary status quo.
As your default.
Yes. Heck, a few years ago, that default was depression. So I've certainly come a long way since then. I am more in that balanced, centered place. But if I could have my way, I would be spending much more time in the giddy, excited, happy, whee kind of feeling.
You'd be annoying a lot of people in restaurants, I suspect.
Yes.
Okay. So giddiness would be your thing. Wish number 3.
Unlimited resources. Just being able to, not even necessarily having money be the thing. It's more about just being able to get what I want when I want it, as far as being able to travel and have whatever house I feel like having and whatever pet I feel like having, and to be able to give to charity when I feel like doing that, and to be able to do it in big ways. So it's not necessarily dollar signs that I'm seeing here, but just freedom to not have to worry about dollar signs.
You know what's really funny about that is I know several people who have that freedom. They have multiple houses, a private jet, hundreds of millions of dollars. They are not one iota happier than you and I are right now.
Sure.
So this idea that people have that, oh, if only I had limitless money, it'd be great. It would be great on a limitless money level, but life doesn't let you off the hook that way. So here's my theory again. Life is like a 3-legged stool. I've said this in a previous one. Life is a 3-legged stool. Health, finances, and love. You're only allowed to have 2 of those stuck to the floor. The third one always breaks. At any one time, one leg is missing.
Okay.
Because you're here to solve one of those problems. So there are people with tons of
see.
money and great health, and they're lonely. You're never allowed to have 3 balanced legs on your stool throughout your entire life.
Okay, well then I want to change that last wish to be able to have the 3 balanced legs.
You're a very, very difficult woman. And on that note, let's end round 2. I need a drink. Okay, we're back with round 3. April's still laughing from round 2. This is the wrap-up round. Basically, it's 3 questions just to wind the whole thing up. Number 1, you're rushed to the hospital. Doctors say you have 48 hours left to live. What would you do in those 48 hours that you've not done so far?
Well, the first thing that I thought of would be to go somewhere awesome like Hawaii or
Most of the
or
time
Greece,
will be spent in a plane flying there.
Yes. So I would teleport to Hawaii for a day and teleport to Greece for a day.
That should have been one of your 3 wishes. A teleport machine that works every single time. That would be better than anything. Because you'd make your money because the military would want to buy it off you. And you'd be able to go wherever you wanted. And you could actually teleport into a bank and steal the money and leave. And nobody would ever know how you did it.
I really like that idea.
Okay. Question 2. What do you consider to be a universal truth?
The answers are within you. You don't need to look to anyone or anything external to find your answers and your truth.
And question 3, the last one. Who are you really?
I think that answer evolves and changes throughout people's lives. And
Who are you really right now?
Yeah. Right now, I am my essence, just fully experiencing and enjoying what's going on here and now in this physical lifetime. And it's so much less about who I am as a physical person anymore. It used to be so wrapped up in who that physical person was and what I looked like and what I had and, and all of that. And now it's just this fantastic state of being and sort of observing what's going on from this place of greater peace and openness. So my answer now would be essence, where, even a few years ago, I've been like, oh, I'm a wife and a mother, and or even evolving into I'm an intuitive healer and life coach. But it goes much deeper than that now. And I don't really see it that way. It's much more essence.
You're not your job. You're
Right.
not what you own. You're not your position in life. You're just you, basically.
Yeah.
There we go. We're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.